Welcome back to Sportsworld, coming to you this week from Ghana, host of the 26th Africa Cup of Nations. Now, in the nearby country of Liberia, football has been much lower down the list of priorities. The country has endured two recent civil wars, the second of which finished in 2003. But now a project called Football for Peace is making its contribution towards uniting former warring factions.
14 years of civil war have left the West African country of Liberia and its people divided and traumatized. One of the most intractable post-war issues is what to do with the 100,000 former militiamen, many of whom started fighting as boys and grew up thinking that the unspeakable was acceptable. The casualties included huge numbers of amputees who found themselves outside society, resorting to crime or to begging on the streets. People such as Dennis Parker, who until recently lacked any sort of role in Liberian society.
During the war, my parents, they were wonderful people. They ill-treated my parents, and God made me join the revolution, and I became part of the problem.
Even after losing his right leg below the knee, Dennis continued to fight until UN peacekeepers finally took control of the country. He found himself on the streets with his girlfriend and two of their children. Deeply impoverished, Liberia offers no welfare for the disabled, who find the few jobs that do exist are beyond their grasp.
Dennis Parker, he was like very discouraged. He nearly committed suicide. He was like, where do I go? How do I live? He began as a teenager, participated in the war. He fought the war, and during the time of the war, he became amputated. And he became so discouraged with life because nobody would cater to him. He has to go out and fight for he and his family, and it became a horrible story.
At a time when there was no soccer, you'd stop a taxi, an able-bodied man standing here, and I was standing there. And he would go and pick up the able-bodied man, and he would leave me behind. Why? Because they would have that thing in their head that we are the ones who destroyed the country. We are the ones who killed the other persons, killed their parents.
Most of them, after being amputated, and the fact that they are former fighters, the community was not kind to them because the community see them as people that victimized them into the community. So, because of that level of rejection and marginalization, they were not fully accepted in the community, and as a result, they were left to sleeping in the streets and begging for survival.
Dennis Parker and Robert Carlo founded LASA, the Liberia Amputee Sports Association. For Dennis and his fellow amputees, his life has been transformed. They now play international football for their country.
Since we introduced amputee football, since that time, he has moved to his own place with his family. He comes to practice every day, and he's looking forward to a more meaningful life.
For every condition, God put it there, and God knows the reasons why he put it there. For the past times, we've been suffering. But with soccer, I've done well.
The community does not reject them like before, because whenever they play the game, the community go and see them, and they like the game. And people do not look at them anymore in a condescending way. People now accept them because they have something to contribute in the community as amputee footballers. And so they begin to appreciate them. That appreciation really can be translated into getting jobs for them, into their sense of belonging to the community. They don't feel anymore less important.
Before, there was no respect for us. But soccer has made us well known. Walking on the streets now, people embrace us and tell us thank you.
Amputee football has brought hope, and football, yes, can bring hope. The Liberian situation is a concrete example, like in the case of Dennis Parker and many other amputees. They now have hope.
If I play against my opponent, if I hit him, I'll go and tell him sorry, and I'll pick him up. Because football is all about friendship.
Football is all about friendship.
If you love your opponent will love you. Even if I play, I feel fine, because thousands of people are looking at me. Football has made me go to some places I've never been.
Here in the Ghanaian capital of Accra, it's the Football Cup of Nations that is understandably dominating just about every newspaper and TV show. But there are other sports that Ghana excels at. The country has produced a series of champion boxers, the vast majority of which come from a tiny, poverty-stricken slum on the outskirts of this city. Sport doesn't get much rawer than this. In Accra's desperately poor district of Bukom, boxing is interwoven with daily life. It may be hard to believe, but time and time again, the area has produced world-class fighters. It was in this open square that Azuma Nelson, arguably Africa's greatest ever boxer, learnt the skills that saw him become a three-time world champion.
The normal play of the people here is they try to group themselves and then fight as groups. And that's it. So it is in our blood, it is in our genes. So we try to put that into reality and make some money out of it too.
Bukom is part of Ghana's Gar province. There are people who throughout their history have been famed for their strength and fighting ability. Boxing then was their obvious sporting outlet.
On the days when they don't go out to fish, they will have these fist fights. It was said that, you don't use any weapon whatsoever, bare knuckle fights. And the rules were that you don't use any weapons, as I've said, and the champion emerged after, engaging each other in fist fights all throughout the day. It could last throughout the day. So that's where the traditional strength of Ghanaian boxing comes from.
Boxing is right at the heart of this community. The gyms that are on just about every corner here, much more than just a passing diversion, the sport provides the possibility of a way out of poverty. The long list of champions and world champions Bukom has produced, all the motivation the next generation of fighters require. Frank Frimpong, known in his gym as the Big Shark, is just one such contender. He's already the heavyweight champion of Africa and is about to head to the United States for the next stage of his career.
Maybe after my first fight in the States, I just want to get the I want to be recognized there first, then I'll continue from there, maybe 4 or 5 fights, then I'll see what will happen. But I'll be glad to bring one of the world titles here. That's what that's my ambition.
Improvisation is just one skill that's essential in Bukom. Fighters have to warm up wherever they can. But when they move into the gym, the atmosphere is one of focused intent. And while the coaches will always be looking out for their next champion, boxing here has to be put into a wider social context.
We are crammed in this area. There are a lot of people here and it's survival of the fittest. So at least you have to do something. And I try to put some meaning into the lives of the young men. I don't want people to be straight in the streets or maybe doing bad things like this and stuff like that. If you can't get anything doing, you start thinking of bad things, maybe armed robbery and that kind of thing. And I hate to see that happening, so I try to put some meaning into the lives of the young people around.
I was talking to our current IBF rated #1 boxer, Joshua Clottey, and Joshua is based in America, and he was training for his final eliminator against Alvarez with the cold, sub-zero temperatures in New York. He's got to get up and go and work at it, go on the road. And he said, look, Moses, I had no problem at all because I could throw my mind back to my circumstances in Ghana, and I said, boy, I have to go and do this for myself, for my family, and for the people of Ghana.
Boxing is often referred to as the sweet science, but in Bukom, the simple equation of talent combined with unblinking dedication seems to be working just fine. Now remember, you can keep up to date with all the latest news from the Africa Cup of Nations at our website. That's at aljazeera.net/English. But that's it for this special edition of Sportsworld from Ghana. I'm Andy Richardson. You're watching Al Jazeera.